Chapter 1 Arden Lume. The sun hung high over the city of Everest, casting a warm, steady light across the expansive courtyards of the Equity Assembly. In one of these open spaces, surrounded by vibrant green grass, a young woman sat on one patch of grass, her face tilted toward the sky, eyes closed. Her blood-red curls, tight and densely coiled, were tied back into a low ponytail. Golden cuffs wrapped around her bronze forearms and biceps, catching the sunlight in dull gleams that matched the soft hue of her ecru blouse. Spruce blue loose pants draped loosely around her legs and disappeared into well-worn navy boots with a cadmium red teardrop framing the gap in between her big toe and smaller ones. The boots' soles darkened after long use. She sat with one knee up and the other leg stretched forward, supporting herself with both hands behind her. There was a calm stillness to her posture, grounded and unhurried. Her features, an oval face, rounded lips, arched small brows, and ears that stuck out slightly, granting her a thoughtful, alert expression even while she rested. A breeze moved around her without interruption. She does not command attention, but rather holds it, unbothered, as much as a part of the courtyard as the stone and the sky. The stillness was broken by the distant sound of someone shouting. The voice grew louder, cutting through the peaceful assemblage. An older woman with gray hair dashed across the courtyard behind the assembly hall, her agility at odds with her age. The hall itself was an impressive structure, its clay walls adorned with ancient-looking pillars that echoed the history of Everest. The woman's voice rose again, calling out a name. "Arden!" The young woman on the grass stirred, her dark amber eyes flickering open, catching the sunlight and revealing gold flecks within them. Arden turned her head slightly, glancing over her shoulder to see the figure of the old woman nearing the gravel pathway that led to the courtyard, recognizing the approaching figure as her caregiver, Hilary Hane. Arden rose to her feet. A wide grin spread across Arden's face as she hopped toward Hilary, her arms swinging in rhythm. Hilary, in a flowing dark purple robe that billowed behind her, hurried towards Arden, the gravel crunching beneath her sandals, but just as they were about to meet, Hilary stumbled, pitching forward. Arden reacted swiftly, catching the older woman before she could fall. Hilary's hands trembled as she gripped Arden's arms. Gasping for air, her chest rising and falling with effort, she looked up at Arden with a heart-shaped face and large buttermilk eyes that slanted downwards. Her eyebrows were rounded and slightly arched. Her lips were small. A small, slightly hooked nose sat above her pale skin, which showed faint signs of aging where pores had softened. Arden chuckled, her eyes alight with amusement. "Why are you running like that at your age, Hilary?" she teased. Hilary began steadying herself, managed to lift a finger. Her expression one of mock indignation. "Permit your ear, girl," she huffed, still catching her breath. "I am seasoned by cycles, but my strength endures." Arden laughed, her joy infectious, as the two stood together in the sunlit courtyard, the moment alive with warmth. Hilary lowered her head, still catching her breath, and slowly straightened up. She brushed her hands off her robe, her movements intentional. Arden waited with patient amusement, watching as Hilary finally regained her composure and met her gaze with a slightly exasperated smile. "I swear. You presume they stay small. Alas, you exude loftier than the high grass every passing dawn," Hilary remarked, her tone both fond and teasing. Arden smirked, her eyes sparkling with humor. "Hilary, I'm not that tall," she replied, her voice fastened with faux modesty. Hilary jabbed a finger at her with a theatrical movement. "You are a giant," she declared, her mock exasperation drawing another line of laughter from Arden. Prepare thyself for the sacred time of tumultuous torment. Pardon. Train lessons. The High Warden of the Storm Guards, or, as we know, Les. Hillary proclaimed, her tone rising in a fading authority that died at the end. Arden rolled her eyes so hard it was interesting they stayed in her head, somewhere, grinning all the while. Hillary exhaled dramatically, punctuating the announcement, voice damped. Awaits the Lightbringer. Arden nodded, putting her arm through Hillary's and gently holding her hand. Hillary blinked and was mildly confused at the gesture, but allowed it as they began walking toward the halls. Arden glanced sideways at Hillary, a mischievous grin becoming across her face. Attend my side as I make my way to the arena, she declared with a dramatic flair. Hillary chuckled, humoring her. Anything for the Lightbringer herself, she replied with a restful yet playful tone. Arden stood in the middle of the training arena, scimitars with golden handles in both hands. She now wore a black sleeveless blouse, tied snugly with drawstring loose pants, and simple cotton flats that allowed agile movements. She spun gracefully, one scimitar raised to eye level while the other swept behind her back. Her movements were fluid as she executed a roundhouse kick with her left leg, herself throwing into a twirl in the air. Her opponent, a man more than twice her age, with salt and pepper bangs partially obscuring his face, deflecting her strikes with steady, practiced precision. His face was long and diamond-shaped, marked by a prominent nose and firm, medium-sized lips. His eyes were steady, his high-arched brows furrowed in concentration over a wavy, long forehead. The tops of his ears stuck out, while the lobes sat low and to the side, giving them an uneven, slightly crooked appearance. The clash of metal rang out, and sharp rhythmic bursted as their weapons met. Arden stepped back. Her scimitars moved in controlled, circular rotation as she scanned his movements. The two began circling each other, their steps intentional, their gazes locked. Suddenly Arden's eyes widened, with determination igniting in them. She spread her arms wide before lunging forward with maximal speed. The man responded fast, angling his sword toward her chest. Arden bent backward at the last possible moment, her spine arching as the blade sliced harmlessly for the air above her. In a fluid motion, she snapped forward, attempting to slash his legs. The man reacted just in time, blocking her strike with his sword and emitted lightning charges. The force of the block caused one of Arden's scimitars to slip from her hand's grip. It clattered to the ground, leaving her disorganized. Arden glanced where it had landed before putting her other scimitar in front of her to block the man from slashing the sword onto her. Arden braced herself, locking her stance as the man's sword pressed harder against her. A grunt escaped her lips as she struggled against the force. Then, a move she did not plan, she jabbed her foot upward, striking the man square in the groin with the pointed tip of her shoe. The man dropped his weapon with a gasp, doubling over in pain. Arden took the opportunity to move for her scimitar, only for it to suddenly lift off the ground, soaring in the air, just as her fingers reached for it. Arden stomped her foot in frustration. Arden, I thought you wanted to play me. She froze at the familiar voice and turned to see a figure descending from the staircase across the room. Gale Tron, his presence unmistakable. Walked with practical precision, his wide eyes almond gleamed with the mass he wielded, the very force that had just lifted her scimitar up to the ceiling. Gale's hair, once gray, had turned fully white, and stuck out in uneven tufts. Age showed increases along his wide, round forehead, and the texture of his medium deep toned skin. His nose was short with a visible bump, and his lower lip was broad, though the upper one was mostly hidden beneath a thick, heavy mustache. His ears were rounded, both adorned with long cuffs earrings. With a wave of his hand, a chair flew from the air at the edge of the arena. He sat down, black floors beneath him contrasting with the red walls of the arena. A smug smile played on his lips as he observed Arden.